Hi there, I'm Nadine Richardson, your host and creator of the scientifically verified childbirth education program, She Births. Our vision is to make birth better for every family around the world. And our She Births show is a place that will inspire your birth, evolve your parenting, and help you live a life you love. Today's podcast is brought to you by Water Wipes, the world's purest baby wipes, made of 99.9% water and a drop of fruit extract. You can receive a 20% discount on your first order using the code SHEBIRTHS20. Just go to shop.waterwipes.com.au and enter the code SHEBIRTHS20 to get your discount today. If you are a parent, about to be one, or a fellow health professional, join us now for an inspirational deep dive into topics with experts around the globe. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of the She Births Show podcast. Today, Jonni Pollard and Carla di Mattina share their birth story with us from New York City. Jonni is a meditation teacher, founder of One Giant Mind, and author of The Golden Sequence, a manual for reclaiming our humanity. Carla, his wife, is a One Giant Mind teacher, physiotherapist, and creator of Align Movement Therapy. Little Saffira Devi's birth takes place in a Manhattan apartment. There are a few twists and turns, like most births, and conscious decisions that are made and changed during pregnancy and labour. But this story really demonstrates what is often hard to convey, the spiritual nature of birth, the power of intimacy that can occur within ourselves, with our babies, with our partners, and even with the divine. Like all birth stories, a solid preparation is found to give not just the mother, but the couple, the strength they need to persevere and surrender during the birth process. Carla's birth is certainly not a walk in Central Park, but she says the greatest gift of her labour was the ability to embrace her femininity. And Jonni describes birth as the most beautiful, magnificent thing he has ever witnessed. So if you want to hear how a labouring mum manages to actually walk the streets of the East Village at 9 centimetres dilated after more than 30 hours of labour, then you will love this story. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time out of your busy book tour, Jonni, and time away from your baby, Carla, and together as a family. I know you've got your little girl, Saffira Devi, with Grandma right now up in the hills of Byron. So we're going to jump straight in and get into some juicy conversations all about your birth and all about your new book and your amazing work, because each of you are experts in the mind and the body. And I think it would be so helpful for families around the world to hear how you prepared, how you stepped into these roles of birth and made it a beautiful experience, and how that even ties in. How does birth even relate to the spiritual and physical work that we also do in our careers as well? So I will hand it over to you both to share. What was your birth experience like, and what preparation helped you, and how did you even get to have a great experience?
Oh, where did we start, babes?
I don't know.
Well, I will start by saying that I think Carla and I started off in two different places in terms of our relationship of what we imagined the birth looking like. Carla was living in New York City for 10 years and was surrounded by, a very sort of medically minded, Western science-based paradigm with her clients and whatever. I came from Australia, hanging out with you and a lot of other very empowered progressive women that were really open to the idea of home birth and natural birth. And when I sort of suggested that to Carla, it felt very foreign to her.
Mm.
And she wanted to really explore the hospital birth route. And being respectful of her, I completely surrendered to that, and we went on that journey. Maybe that's a good segue for you to sort of step in, Carla, and sort of explain how that unfolded for you.
So it wasn't really just based on where I lived and the people I was surrounded by. It was also family and familiar to me. My mother had birthed all 5 of us children in a hospital. And, also it was what I'd seen on TV all the time. It was like all I ever knew of that was normal is done in a hospital. And so that's where I just felt safest doing it, was doing what everybody else was doing. I wasn't surrounded by people. I knew my cousin had a home birth, and that was all I knew. That was the only reference point I had. So we started on the journey of doing it in a hospital in New York, and that once I read one book that was a game changer for me, and that was Ina
May Gaskin.
Ina May Gaskin's Guide to Childbirth. And the first half was dedicated to women sharing their birth stories. And I was fascinated to hear that it could go in so many different ways. Like there were hospital stories, but there was also many home birth stories. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like no one ever told me this could be enjoyable, or that that there's like a huge spiritual development that can happen through it. Like I'd never even heard it spoken about in that lens. And so that was really helpful for me to open my mind. And then the second half was really great because it spoke to my very Western medical sense, which was giving me reasons why they could offer certain treatments in a hospital, and the pros to it, the cons to it, know the contraindications, know your precautions. So I felt really empowered. That one book changed everything. And at our next doctor's appointment, I then began to ask smarter questions. And the answers I was met with didn't satisfy what I needed to hear. And then that began the journey of, what could an alternate birth look like that isn't in a hospital? So, yeah, that answers how I got to the same point, right? So then that was when we watched a documentary. I spoke to my cousin who had done the home birth, and I started to understand what dangers were involved, how they're dealt with, how it's different. And I was just comparing everything, hospital, home. Where will I be safest? Where will I have my wishes to birth the way I want honored? But not jeopardizing at all the health of our child. Where will I have how I want to do this honored most, but with respect, not blindly honored, as in understanding if we need to go to a hospital because there's something wrong, let's do it, but not forced into a bunch of interventions or procedures that were not necessarily necessary.
Exactly. I think there's such a shift in people's minds. For the majority of people, walk around thinking birth kind of happens to me. And as you start to read birth stories, particularly Ina May's amazing work and a whole bunch of other great books and videos that are out there, you start to see actually it's her that's doing the work. Like, you actually birth your baby. You have to work with those contractions. You have to understand the questions you're asking. You have to learn so much in often a very short period of time. And even if you're not birthing at home, the reason why I show home births in the She Births program is because every woman should be aspiring to take that degree of responsibility. for her birth experience.
Yeah. So once, like I said, it started with the documentary and then speaking to my cousin. And then that was when Jonni, I think, felt free to open and unleash all of his connections and knowledge and insight into the area. And that's how I got connected to you and was able to explore that more and understand your program, which made me see the depth to which you need to educate yourself. And as you said, irrespective of whether it's a home or a hospital, you have to do that work if you want to take ownership of what's happening. Like, you have to. There's no, I don't think there's any other, you can't you can't sidetrack. What's the word? You can't
outsource. You can't outsource the process. Well, you do, but you're still doing the work. It's just that those interventions aren't really outsourcing. It's just disengaging and disempowering a natural process. But, the point that you make, Nadine, about you have to learn in such a short period of time. I mean, that's an understatement. I think the reality is that for the first time you give birth, you're really learning on the job. You're given all of these insights and understandings and exercises of how to process the sensations, how to be in relationship to sensations, how to take responsibility for the whole process of triggering the sequence of birth. But you don't know it until it's happening. And the context of what the responsibility means to constantly remain present and continue showing up. You don't know what that means until you're in it. And it was just the most extraordinary thing to witness the power that Carla had in that process. Not only did she embrace the responsibility, she unleashed a power that I don't think she knew she had, that, gave rise to or birth to the most extraordinary thing that we could ever comprehend existing, which is our little daughter, that we are just so incredibly in love with. And the power that brought her into the world was something that I didn't know. I mean, I had a sense, I imagined it, but I didn't know until I witnessed it what a woman can do, where she can go to access this I mean, power it's almost an understatement. It's like it's everything. It's like the universe.
It is, right?
It's accessing the whole universe to be a conduit to deliver this being into the world. And I mean, and it became the single most impactful spiritual experience of our lives. And I can speak for both of us because we speak about it all the time. And particularly for me, and that was unexpected. That was
how amazing. I just, I love hearing that. It just makes my heart sing to hear that birth did her magic over there in Manhattan for yet another family, because that's what she does. Like, it is the power of the universe and nature moving through your body, and she awakens you back to the essence of what and who we really are, which is what your book is about. And that's why I love your book so much, because connection and growth and belonging are these ways that we restore, reminding ourselves of that is who we really are. And I think childbirth is so much about connection and growth. And it does require a tribe as well, and a sense of belonging in the space as well. I think it is actually a process for awakening and reclaiming our true selves through birth. Don't you think, Jonni? What do you reckon? Am I just jumping ahead into your book and making some grandiose connection? What do you reckon?
No, absolutely. And, Saffira was born just after I finished writing it. And, I think the book would have been completely hijacked by the birth experience had I not finished it. I probably would have restarted writing the book based on the impact that the birth experience had on me, or at least would have devoted a couple of chapters to that experience right up the front, because it was so extraordinary. And there'll be another book in me at some point.
Exactly.
To talk about the experience of the during labor, postnatal, fathering, parenting, being a partner, a husband in a co-parenting dynamic. All of it is it's the new sadhana for me. It's and it enlivens the highest and best qualities in both of us. Like it holds us accountable to the most beautiful, kind, patient, loving, joyful aspects of our spirit all the time. Her presence, little Saffira's presence, holds us accountable to that, and we just love it for that as well.
I think you guys are going to have another baby really soon.
I don't know.
That was funny because Jonni said that it was probably like the second week after Saffira was born. He was like, so when do you think we'll have number 2? And I was like, too raw to ask yet. But I have a little commentary on when you said about everybody like being educated. I'm a physiotherapist, so know a lot about the body. And I could have easily gone through this and been like, I don't need to educate myself. Like, I understand how the body works probably better than most people. Why would I need to do that?
Absolutely.
This was a whole new set of learnings for me that, like, everybody births. And like you said, you think that it happens to you. That's what I always thought. You get pregnant, you go through this process. Like, there's no real, you don't have to connect so much with it because it happens. Your body does it. And we went through an education process. So we did the She Births online, and then we also had a person in New York that we worked with. And when she went through the anatomy and showed pictures to us of what's happening with the contraction, where is your baby? What's going on? I mean, for me, who knows everything, like the insides and outsides of the body, like have cut up cadavers and seen things, I didn't know this is what happens in birth. I didn't know that each contraction is that uterus helping push the baby down. Like, it helped me understand that, if I work with the contraction, like there's a downward force, I have to be working with that downward. If I'm resisting that and going the opposite direction, it's like
pain.
It's painful, and it's also ruining or going totally oh my goodness. I've been talking baby talk for too long that I've lost my English. It's going against what the contraction should be doing. So understanding that was like, oh, okay, I get it. This is what is happening and this is what I have to do. So I don't, anyone who thinks that they understand the body, we don't understand the body for birth. We're never taught it. Yeah. And it's education that should be taught because it's how we all come into this world. Like, it's a part of our existence to understand how we came in. So, yeah, that bit was really important. And then you spoke about the power that happens with birthing, and you related it to Jonni's book of connecting, growing and belonging. And I can tell you personally, my experience was the greatest connection spiritually that I've ever had through that moment, the greatest sense of growth I've ever had in a moment. And now the result of having Saffira is the greatest sense of belonging, not only belonging to our family, but also to understanding that I'm really only a part of something that's so much bigger. And I could never comprehend what I belonged to until the moment of the birth, where I realized there was so much else that was with me, working with me, for me to do what I had to do. Does that make sense?
Totally. It makes so much sense. Absolutely. I think the golden insights as well. Like, so I started reading your book, Jonni, and I found it so amazing. The 4 golden insights that life is sacred, love is our nature, wisdom is our power, and fulfillment is our purpose. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to memorize that so that I can do that in the morning when I meditate, and I'll put my hand on my heart and but I didn't have to try at all. Like, I read it once, I closed my eyes, I said it once, and I've been able to remember it ever since, which is just simply an indication of how truthful the truth resonates with my body and my knowing. And I think those 4 insights as well are experienced during birth. And your golden sequence technique of surrendering, accepting, feeling, connecting, responding, that's what's happening. That's what you just described, Carla, that feeling of the force of nature and surrendering, accepting to that. If you resist it, you go into pain, and that resist it even more, and it goes into suffering that you distinguish really well in your book, that difference between pain and suffering. And there's definitely a line that women can cross and come back from in their mindset and in their physicality in labour as well. And then we have to respond and work with the labour, just like you said. And in the book, I just found it mind-blowing that you've written all the truths of birth and the truths of life.
Well, I mean,
they're one and the same.
It's all one and the same. You know, like the principles laid out in the book are the principles for how we walk the fine line between surrendering to the innate intelligence that's governing and funding and organizing everything, and participating to the extent that we are contributing to the process of creation, but without trying to dominate it, without trying to control it or dictate. You know, the great challenge for us humans is forming an alliance with nature's intelligence, establishing a partnership where we are required to, as a matter of our responsibility as being human, to participate in the process of creation, whether it's to understand the best way to go about our day when we've got a busy day, how to conserve as much energy, be as efficient and effective so that we can remain established in our hearts and always be present and, be ready for unexpected changes of circumstances that doesn't deplete us and cause stress, but enables us to be able to be dynamic and shift our expectations so that we can continue in that same flowy way. Whatever it is, we have a responsibility to form an alliance with the present moment and the intelligence that's playing out in that moment, and to be in a ever expanding sort of progressive, evolving dance with it, to understand that, one, we're never alone in our efforts and our pursuit. It's not always only up to us, and that and then I guess the thing that challenges us most is to the extent that we must surrender into the power that is moving through us, and at the same time assume the responsibility for the role that we play as individuals, having that power run through us. And this is the fascinating thing that I witnessed in the most beautiful way with Carla giving birth to Saffira, is that there was this force moving through her when those contractions kick in. It was like a wave of energy that wasn't just happening inside of her, it was in the room. The room was thick, it was dense, there was this energy presence, and it would rise and it would agitate and like stir something so deep and cause this force, downward force in her. And I watched Carla just completely surrender to it, but still participate in the way that she moved her body, the way that she just allowed it. And then it would subside, and then she'd put her head down and start snoring. And then about 6 minutes later, it'd rise again and go for a minute or so, and then just watching these waves occur and how Carla interacted with it. It exemplified perfectly what's required of us in any given moment, in terms of how we respond to the forces that are moving through us. This was a very gross and intense sort of expression of it. It's very kind of amplified in the birthing process. And the gift that birthing, I think, offers women is the opportunity to really be schooled about the way nature operates. And I've watched Carla grow immensely in terms of the way in which she surrenders and dances that fine line, being a mother and just dealing with everything in life now as a result of giving birth. It's extraordinary.
With that, the element of surrender, though, had to come with me being able to trust my tribe. So knowing I had a wonderful team. I had an incredibly talented midwife, a really supportive doula, and Jonni. And they were my birthing tribe. And for me to do what I had to do was not easy, but easy knowing that I had them around me. Like I was supported, like so supported, which allowed me to go deeper and deeper and deeper and not worry about anything else. Like everything else was done and covered. And I feel like that's the parallel in life that we often can, the bit that's the downfall because of our lack of trust of those around us, that we're unable to fully unleash the power within us because where there's that resistance because I don't fully trust. I had to trust completely to get to the point I got to fully surrender. Would you agree with that?
Totally. And just for the listeners, so just to set the scene, it was a 36-hour labor. We actually decided to have a home birth. I don't know whether we've actually...
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But I love the fact, because I was just about to say, I bet our listeners are going to want to know, I bet she just had a 4-hour, pain-free, semi-orgasmic birth experience. Nuh-uh, slightly different.
Well, it was a 36-hour labor. I mean, we characterize it as pain-free.
Awesome.
Yeah. It wasn't sensation-free. I mean, I can only speak from what I saw on the outside. I saw no indication that there was any pain. There was discomfort. There was no grimacing of the face. There was no verbal expression of pain. It was primal sounds that were expressive of the motion of energy through her body, but it wasn't like a pain of resistance, or a pain of something that was
wrong,
premature to anything that needed to happen. The widening was timely in every contraction. It wasn't like there was no force that nature was because there was total surrender. I guess it was because there was no resistance to what was happening.
That's right, because you were yielding to nature. You were following her and working with her and letting go. All those beautiful qualities that prep us for the next phase of life and deepen our sacredness of life. So tell us about the birth a bit more. Tell us some more juicy details. Carla, how was it for you?
Yeah, never mind me.
Well, so I too wouldn't use the word pain. I don't. So just to give, I know that sounds strange, but so we did decide on a home birth after all of our investigations. That's where I decided I would be in the best hands. And we had the birthing tub. So we had a thing blown up in the living room with the water in it. And, I knew that was my pain relief. Like there was no other thing I could grab as pain relief. So I was like, I will use that when I really need it. I didn't want to just prematurely get in it and utilize my pain relief resource. So I was like, I'll get there when it gets bad. After 36 hours we gave birth, I'd never stepped into the tub.
No way. That's amazing. I was like, yep, the bath is always the trump card. We keep it to the end.
Yeah.
Get in there. It's wild.
Never got in there. So I would describe what I felt as there was it was a discomfort through my hips, but it felt like someone was cranking almost my hip bones open more, and it was like the muscles on the outside were a bit angry about that, like every time. That's all it was. And as long as I moved in the right way, I could make that sensation just feel tolerable. So it was always, it was a dance with the contraction. My memories are grabbing onto something or someone and sort of swaying my hips but going downward. I just always remember going down. And that downward motion continued throughout every contraction, but just got stronger in terms of once it got to the pushing phase, that dance downwards became like a full-on power squat.
Yeah, you were grinding.
Yeah, like just a sit down deep into a strong squat. So that was how and let's not forget that the way I perceive the situation is probably very different to the way Jonni saw. So I just think like it was like two different worlds were happening when you're in it as opposed to observing it. So it's so great for me to have spoken with the doula and the midwife and Jonni to understand what I was doing during it, which was different to my perception. But yeah, so it was Jonni with me pretty much the whole time except for 1 hour when the doula came and put him to bed to give him a rest because she said we'd need him later. And but otherwise he was there just with me the whole time and being little bits of food, little sips of drinks, whatever I needed was there and catered for. I didn't have to think about anything.
Perfect.
But the duration of it, like it really does mess with your head. Like we'd been going for quite a long time and the doula had popped over, checked in and then said, okay, I'm going to go now. And although she made lots of adjustments to my techniques in the contraction while she was there, so her wonderfully trained eye was able to see that I was not fully surrendering. So even though I thought I was, she could see that I was still resisting. So she showed a couple of things. Oh, how about you try this and this and this? Showed Jonni a couple of things and then sort of she said, I'm just going to go. And I remember going, really? Like if she goes and the midwife's not here, that means nothing's happening. Like all of this time's passed and nothing has happened.
This was after about 18 hours.
Yeah.
We did the first sort of 18 to 24 hours by ourselves with one visit.
Yeah.
And so that was really disheartening. Like you're like, I've been going through and just diligently doing the work, but like, and in having spoken to the doula afterwards, she was like, I was down the street. Like I never went far. I was always there. But she said often if I leave, it can kick in something different in you to start something a little more. So then, and I remember being, felt like despondent at one point, just in the shower, sitting on the Swiss ball. Every time a contraction would come, doing my little dance with hot water on my back, looking at Jonni slumped in the corner of the bathroom, just helping me.
But keep in mind, at this stage, we were having like 7-minute intervals between contractions. So we're like, we haven't really gotten into
the 3 and 10 yet.
Yeah. And so she's just like, when's this going to happen? You know? This was after about 26 hours, I'd say.
And
Amazing.
So speaking to something that both of you said before, where we always try and intervene with nature, we're always trying to control things. My last-ditch attempt at controlling was in that moment in the shower. I remember I just was like, Jonni, I have to share with you something. And I'm like, there's this thought that just is constant in my mind. And he said, uh-huh. And I said, I want to have an elective C-section.
You are hysterical. That's amazing. Wow. So this was still sitting there in the back of your mind. There was
Yep.
Yeah.
It was the last bit that needed to, it was like the last thing that had needed to be wrung out. I feel like it was, and you know, Jonni didn't like look at me and make any expression of really. He just looked and went, okay, whatever you want at this point is up to you and we'll do. And I was like, okay. And then
that was one of the greatest lies I ever told.
Good daddy doularing, buddy. Good daddy doularing.
But that was it. It was almost like I just needed to voice it. There was never any real truth behind it. Like It's not what I wanted, but it was there in me, still just like simmering. And once I'd voiced it, on we went. And then the doula and the midwife came back. The midwife came for the first time just to check in. I feel like she was just doing like, let's just check in and see what's going on. So they were observing me, and we were still having the contractions like 7 minutes apart, and I was still just moving through them. And my midwife very rarely tells you when she does a check of how many your dilation. She never tells you what you are, because she says it doesn't really help you mentally. It can actually pull you out of the game instead of in the game, because it could take 10 hours to get to 3 centimeters.
Yep.
But then it could take 1 hour and you're at 9.
Exactly.
But if you know that it took 10 hours to get to 3, if you do the math on that, you're like, oh my God, I've got that much longer to go. So she's not an advocate of sharing what she finds. So she, there's also a lot. I mean, we were also 2 weeks past our due date. We were 15 days past our due date. So I think that also plays into a surrendering component. I felt like a huge part of my surrendering happened in that 2 weeks of realizing I really have no control of when she's coming.
Yeah.
But during that period, it was also tainted with anxiety, because I knew, in the Western system, I would have been like induced at 1 week post. And so you start to worry something's going to go wrong. This isn't right.
Yeah, I should also point out, like, to emphasize, there was a lot of anxiety in Carla building up. This wasn't like, yay, we're going to have a home birth, and I feel so free and liberated by that idea. There was a lot of anxiety with the uncertainty. And so in that 24 hours, once the labor kicked in, she was surrendering through a lot of fear, a lot of demons. She was confronting so much. It was like the rite of passage. It was a huge process for her. You could see her facing all of the things that she was fearing so much in this process, until she arrived at this deep place of true surrender. So it's not like this kind of, elegant, smooth surrendering process from one contraction to the next. It's a wild, cathartic, very clunky,
emotional
process, that she really went inward to deal with. Yeah. And I witnessed the whole thing, and the courage and persistence and power that emerged through that was just extraordinary.
Because you're doing a deep meditation, right? This is a really intense meditation where you have to come back to your true self. You're like, oh my God, this has come up. Is it real? Is it? And you have to drop beneath it. It's not real. But if you have people around you that believe it's real and they also are very anxious, it can really spiral out of control.
Oh, totally. I could see how births turn into terrible situations very, very quickly.
That's right.
Yeah, it can easily go one way or the other, and that is the emphasis that you were talking about, the tribe you have around you. What Jonni was for me held me accountable to who I really am. And in the throngs of labor, I feel like you can doubt that, and especially doing what we did, which was the home birth. And I had been subjected to so many people when they ask, oh, where are you birthing? And I would share, and then the looks on their faces and then what they would say as well, like, you're putting, your baby's life at risk, this and this could go wrong. Like, there was never any, oh, great. It was just one thing after the other about the negatives. And so I felt like I was constantly, in conversations sort of with a shield ready to defend everything. And, and that was tiring and exhausting, but also makes you go, oh, hang on. Is there truth in what they're saying? So that process of actually connecting with what is the truth is not something that just happens in the labor. It was happening the whole time once I decided, especially to have the home birth. And so that was a huge process for me of confronting all of them. And it really, everything culminated in that last 36 hours. Every physical emotional and spiritual pursuit I've ever had in my life culminated in those moments. And, you know, one of the things during our education was in talking, the woman would work with Jonni and I, and we'd go through the birth process, and she'd teach us stuff and then get us to go through scenarios. But what I realized every time we did this was Jonni knew I could do it, had no doubt I could do it, believed in me so much. And I remember every time it would just bring me to tears to be like, oh, he really thinks I can do this, or he really seems convinced I can. And I doubted myself. And so when I was through labor, having him there as the knowing and holding me accountable to what I really did know but doubted was game changer. And so when I think the partner's role is huge. And if you and your partner have a solid understanding of each other's needs before birth, then you're in such good stead for the birth. Because during that time, when it was hard, like Jonni was there, and he just one look, and I knew that he knew I could do it, and I had to find that in me. And, you know, it's having that person hold you accountable, but not verbally. He never had to say anything like, you can do it, babe. You can. I didn't have him it wasn't that. It was his holding space, his knowing look, there was just I was just in such sure hands. And so that allowed me to go where I needed to go. And so I think when the partner gets anxious, that, you know, he could easily have triggered what was already there as a background for me, as opposed to dissolving it with his presence. He dissolved my anxiety with his presence, as opposed to throw the match on the fire.
I love that. I just love that so much. I think it describes birth so well, and it really reminds people of the importance of preparing together and getting on the same page and having an open discourse before birth and having a good doula to support you, to guide you through those subtleties, and that place that we go to as a woman of opening up to the love, opening up to the support that comes through from presence as well as practical stuff as well. And that really changes us through birth. Even though you discover your power, you discover your femininity and you're letting go important. And your softness and your vulnerability. And there's nothing more beautiful to see a woman in labor letting go.
You just said it so perfectly. So to give greater context, living in New York for 10 years, I have developed a hardness. You have to survive there. You can be soft and sweet, but you need to have have a little in you. And I definitely developed and I have 4 brothers. So I grew up constantly trying to assert my masculinity and thinking that was my power. And the greatest gift I got through birth, so many gifts, but one of the greatest gifts was, as you said, embracing my femininity, which doesn't mean being soft and fragile and a pushover, but being sure and confident in my ability, but allowing my man to be the man. And I don't think I'd ever really allowed a man to be my man. I thought I had to be it all, but I couldn't. You can't. In the birth, you cannot. You have to be woman. And, you know, even if your partner is a woman, the other person has to be
in their masculine.
You have to allow them to be in their masculine to hold the space. And that takes work, because maybe that's not your partner's natural inclination. So you need to prepare together and realize that that's the roles you're going to assume in it. Because if that dynamic is shifted, you know, if I was trying to be something that
strong,
that's not my true, the true essence of who I am is, like you said, you're feminine, and that softness, the dance, is a reason why we're the ones that are birthing the baby. And so for me to open for that, and that's the thing. The whole process of labor is opening, right? Cervix has to open and open and open and open. And the only way you're going to open is by opening to who you truly are.
Yeah.
And the deeper you go into that's when it happens. And so, yeah. And for the listeners, it wasn't like beautiful, baby's out, everything's sweet. We got to like a hairy point. So, when the midwife came over and she was watching me and she's like, okay, looks like you're still in early stages labor, which was like, we'd been going for like 24 hours.
Oh my God, that must have felt full on.
Felt like, sorry everybody, but felt like shit. I was like, really? And anyhow, then she was like, let's just, we'll talk about our options in a moment, but let's do a little exam and see. So anyhow, I lie down and she does the exam and her jaw drops. And I was like, oh no, now something else is wrong. What's wrong? And she was just like, oh my God, I never really share how many centimeters dilated you are, but you're 7 centimeters and I just opened you to 9. We're having this baby very soon. And I just cried. I was like, oh my God, thank God. Oh my God, thank God. And so things very quickly, and they were both surprised because the contractions were so far apart.
Yeah.
They didn't look like active labor contractions. And this also goes to show that nothing in birth is textbook.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like every birth is different and can look different and feel different for everybody. And so
so just to interject there for a second, when she said that, I wasn't surprised because I was witnessing every single one of her contractions, and I was feeling the force and the intensity of them, and I could just feel progress. I was like, something's happening here. There's so much happening here. There's no way that she would only be like 2 or 3 centimeters. So when she said, you're 7 and I just sort of moved you to 9, I was like, well, yeah, of course. That felt right. But because we were told, this is the way it goes. When you get to active labor, they get to 3 minutes apart and all of that, you get locked into the way it's supposed to be.
You can't help it because you get that from your educators and you do it in the textbooks. And even though we say, there's exceptions to every rule, you still have to go on the trip.
Yeah, totally.
The mind just loves to hang on to numbers, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. And this is where I'm saying this was like the ultimate education in everything goes the way it's going to go. Like we can think it's going to be one way or have these ideas and numbers and control, but it can look different. It can, you need to have a framework, but it can be different.
Yeah.
And so then the midwife was like, all right, we're having this baby. She was like, take her out for a walk. I'm going to do boom, 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 boom. And everything just went up. And so we went out, we were walking around the East Village in New York.
You were 9 centimeters and walking around the East Village.
Yeah,
having full-blown contractions. She's like, let's just get moving here. Let's get the hips moving.
I so wish I was your doula. I so wish I'd been there. That would have been such a trip.
And I mean, I don't really, my recollection of walking on the street is very hazy.
You would have been gone. You would have been frontal lobe, complete shutdown, beta endorphins, blood in that brain.
She was the universe. And she'd be leaning on a stoop, having a contraction. Someone walk past, you go, girl, get that thing out. Only in New York. It was so funny.
But I was oblivious to anybody or anything, like you said. I didn't know. I had my supports. Doula and Jonni were guiding my steps, they had me. So I was, I think, like a very languidy looking thing. That's what I felt like.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, then they walked back up the stairs because we could have gone up the elevator, but I was like, no, stairs, because I just knew that might help. Whatever would help get this out sooner. And so, and then we were up there, and then I started doing, my waters also got broken. So they hadn't broke. So the midwife went in and broke them.
Yeah.
And I was then doing full-blown squats. Every time there was a contraction, I was going into a squat. That's what felt really good. And
like with your legs out wide or one leg in front, sort of like full legs out wide, toes turn out, bum down. I call that the albatross squat. It's like try and span your feet as wide as an albatross wings and you just broaden that pelvic outlet, get those sit bones apart, right?
Yeah, that's what I was doing on each one of them. But very much like, so from my perspective, I thought I was like walking like Wonder Woman, like big, deep strides. And then every time a contraction, I thought I went down like a powerhouse. That's what it felt like. But apparently that's not what it looked like.
Well, the squat, you described the squats perfectly like a powerhouse, but her limbs were like jelly. She could barely step by herself. So I was holding her upper body, and our doula was basically lifting her legs like you would a baby, trying to teach them how to step. Yeah. So she was taking these really big, long strides, so we're getting that dynamic hip movement through her walking. And this is in the living room, from like the bathroom to the other end of the living room. And we just had this pathway that we were going backwards and forwards on. And then she grabbed me around the neck as she went down for a squat. So I just hold her up. But when she went down for a squat, she came alive, like the energy through her and the power that she held herself in a squat position was extraordinary. It was like she went from like this rubbery sort of floppy thing into like this like superconductor of energy, as the contractions came through. And I mean, it was a very short period of time from when you started squatting to when we saw her head appear.
Yeah. Also, and so at that point, the midwife is taking the monitoring the heart rate so that we know if anything's wrong. And, I can hear it, but everything's sort of hazy that I can hear. And I heard that it didn't sound right. And the midwife was like, hang on a minute, something's not right. I need you to not drop down on the next one. I need to settle this and see what's going on with baby's heart rate.
Wow.
And so, that, and it's funny because I didn't get scared. It was just like, okay, all right. Just like, it was just obey. I was very much like, obey, listen. And then again, we did a couple more and it normalized. And then she was crowning. So that happened very quickly. And that was right. The like Jonni said, you're learning on the job. I had no idea how to push. You could teach me the best way you knew how, Nadine, and that would not have taught me how to properly push. Like the actual sensation of what pushing is so foreign. It's like, it's everything I've always tried not to do. When you sit on the toilet, you don't try and push out a poop.
Yeah.
And yet this is what it felt like. I was trying to felt like explode every bloody vein around there with the push. And so it was just different also to how I had been dealing with every contraction prior. Every contraction I was exhaling with the contraction and working with it. Whereas this was like, no, hold your breath. So I remember the doula going, okay, you need to stop. She said, when the contraction comes, I don't want you to breathe out. I want you to hold your breath and imagine you're jumping into water and keep holding that breath and then push. Push down. So the contraction would come and I'd have to, and that even though she gave that instruction so simply, that was a lot for me to deal with at that point. It was like, hang on, how do I breathe in and hold my breath, So it was breathe in, hold. Then I went down, keeping that breath held like I was underwater, but pushing everything I knew. And then I would come up. And so
just to interject, it was hilarious because Carla's physically very fit, as you know. Yeah. And they were quite impressed by her ability to squat, how long she could stay down in a squat. They're like, ooh, haven't really seen anyone do that before, right? But then when the pushing came, they were like, okay, now go, hold your breath and push. And she goes down into the squat and she's pushing. And they're like, okay, you can come up now. And she just kept going and going. She had like an extra 20 seconds of push in her every contraction. And both the doula and the midwife were just like, what the heck's going on here? Because she was so surrendered, it was like she was tapping just an extra bit of power and energy. That the contractions were lasting longer, and she could hold the contraction in her system. And because she's so strong, like physically, she could hold the push for longer as well. And as a result, it happened, probably according to them, in like the fifth of what they would have imagined it would have taken.
Wow.
To get the baby out. There was just so much physical power in what she was doing. It was extraordinary to watch.
And on that though, that excess power is beyond what I thought capable. So, if you're in an exercise class and they're like, there's always extra in your tank, find that little bit extra. And you're like, oh, okay, you'll try and find it. But nothing compares to in that moment when I was birthing, I'm like, oh my God, that reserve tank really does exist. It really does exist, but I could tap it this time. Like consciously, I like in those workouts when I'm told to get that extra bit, I couldn't get there. Whereas in this situation, totally open and surrendered, I realized I had so much more in me. And so when they'd say, come up, I'd be like, hang on a minute. I could feel I could just keep going. Like, and the more it's like a wave. Like the more you rode it, the more it gave. Like I could just, if I just sat on it, it was like it could make it stronger, like a tectonic contraction. Like, you know what I mean? It made it, intensified it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And so anyhow, then Bubba went into distress. So it must have been when she was crowning and her heart, as we found out later, the cord was around her neck twice, which was impacting the ability for her to drop as low as she needed to come out. And so the midwife said, and she was very stern, she just said, Carla, I need this baby out in 10 minutes or else we're going to the hospital. And I remember hearing it and just there was no fear or like, oh my God, no, what's wrong? It was just acceptance and like, okay. In that split second, I remember thinking, not happening. We can't go down into a car and go, no, not enough time. It's now. We're doing it. And then though, like I'd been so, I feel like reliant on the tribe helping me with everything. This bit, I was like, oh my God, they can't do it. Nobody else can do this bit now. Like I actually have to do it. Like nobody else can push now but you. And so you look for help. Who can help me? And I just remember going, okay, my baby, like baby's got to come now. Like, so I remember speaking to her, just going, you've got to come out now. Like you've got to work with me to come out now. Please help me. And that felt like such a salvation to just have somebody with you to work with, even though it sounds silly, right? You're talking.
It's not silly at all. I think it gives me goosebumps when you say that. And I really think that's what happens through the labour process is we really trust our connection with that child. There is no doubt in my mind you were talking to her and she heard you. Mm-hmm. And you just made the connection conscious.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that next one, she came out, we pushed her out, that next contraction, boom. Like just boom.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't quite, it was like boom, boom. So her in the first push, which was just like incredible, it just went and went and went and went. And Kara's the midwife.
Yeah.
We're just looking at each other going, what the heck? Like it just kept going. Like because she had the instruction, it's got to come out on this push. She has to come out. And so she just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing as one push. And then bang, her head came out. We're like, whoa. Cara leant down very elegantly, slid two fingers in, went boom, boom, unlooped the umbilical cord. and was almost going to give Carla the instruction to come up, have a breath, until the next contraction. And Carla just went straight into another push. And within, 3 or 4 seconds, because she was so low in a squat, Saffira just slid out onto the floor of our living room. It was the most beautiful, magnificent thing I've ever witnessed in my life. It was just everything.
And so when the head came out, I distinctly remember the sensation. Like it's like this bulbous thing, like boop, like, and that I would describe as that definitely felt more uncomfortable than anything else. Like a burn, like a little burn, and a burning sensation, sort of. And but because I knew, I was like, that has to be a head. Like, it felt giant. It feels like there's a basketball coming out of your vagina. and but then I was like, well, if that was a head, the rest has to be easier. Like, I knew that the head was the hard bit, unless the shoulders get a little stuck. Like, and so that's why I just stayed there, because I was like, if I did that, then the next bit's got to be fine. Let me just go again, and surely she's going to come out. But like you said, Nadine, I feel like I was talking to her too. Like, as in, that was your head. Your body can come now. If I push, you're coming. Like, we're good. And so that was why I stayed down and just pushed. And then the next bit, it was like an amoeba, like a blah, blah, blah coming out of you, just.
A slippery technicolor.
Yeah, but like I could feel the limbs, like the blah, 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 blah of the fingers and the ship that just, boom, come out,
It's good description, guys. I reckon people are going to appreciate that, and a whole bunch of women out there are going to be reliving their experiences. You just drive it as well, because it brings back memories. It does. It's like this blah, 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 blah. It's pretty extraordinary, the body as it comes out. It's a wild experience. And I think that is that point where you really become so intimately connected with your child, and that first time that you look down at them and you see their eyes open and you watch them take their first breath, like time stands still, life expands and explodes, and yet it sort of just narrows in on these single sacred moment, right? What did it feel like for you guys, those first moments of meeting her?
Well, I mean, Carla was on her back. She went from the squat and laid down on her back.
Resting on my doula's knees.
Yeah. And so Saffira, it was really bizarre because, I was anticipating Saffira coming out all green or blue or yellow, or, how they can come out looking kind of alien-like with, all kinds of, the post-birth, matter all over them, blood and whatever. She came out gleaming.
Wow.
No blood. Her skin tone was as it is today, and she was in this peaceful little sleep on her back. And so, and she didn't look like there were any problems, because she had such a flush color through her. Like, I wasn't alarmed that she wasn't like wah, wah, crying. And Cara leant over.
Can I just add on that? That said, from me looking on, you see a baby that's not making any sound with its eyes shut. So you're like, uh-oh. Like, I could have gone to, I just birthed a baby that's not alive. But again, I was in a state of absolute acceptance. Like, I understand full surrender now. It's when there's an underlying knowing that everything is okay, no matter what, everything is okay. And I couldn't feel like fear, or it was just like, all right, I did what I had to. We've all done what we had to, and what will be now. And an acceptance of what was. Like, that's how it felt in that moment for me, because I did have the vision and be like, oh, shit, that's not good. But there was a stillness in me that was like, but it's okay. So just to paint the picture that that could be a really scary moment seeing what I saw.
Yeah, and I think that's an indication of where you were in your consciousness at the time, where you actually,
Totally.
where she came out. You were in such a state of being, such a deep, unified state with the whole universe. Like, you really merged in those last moments, like the power that I witnessed coming through you. It was complete surrender, and it was you that was doing it, but it was in total alliance, as I described it. There was this perfect alliance between you and the universe for her to come out in the way that she did, so smoothly and gracefully. So my observation, I mean, looking at her, I immediately fell in love. I mean, we'd had some of those 3D scans done, and we had some beautiful visuals of half of her face, her little nose, and I immediately recognized her from those 3D scans, and I mean, I started crying. It was just an immediate response. It was just, I was so overwhelmed that I was finally looking at her. We spoke to her every day, every night. We had a ritual of rubbing beautiful lavender oil into the belly, singing mantras to her and talking to her and falling to sleep together as a family. So her being out and just, there was only a couple of layers of skin and things that were between us. And now that was removed, we were united in this new way. And so she was in this little peaceful sleep, and Cara, our midwife, just like, you've never seen, I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times. I'd never seen anything like it, a level of confidence and competence in stepping towards this little child and so gently bringing her into her body and into the world, waking her up from this kind of, labor sleep. It was just beautiful. And she ran a commentary the whole time. She's like, I've got a beautiful, strong pulse here. She is looking wonderful. Let's just pick her up and I'll rub her on her chest. I'm rubbing her on her chest. She basically just running a commentary to Carla just to let her know that everything's fine. And then I'm just going to lay her down now and let's just see if she comes to. Nope, she's not coming. Let's clear her nostrils. She got a little pump, clear her nostrils. So then she went, Saffira, I'm really sorry. Let's just put this down in your throat. She pumped out some liquid out of her lungs. There was a little cough, but still no eyes open. And she then picked her up again. She said, I'm just going to rub her on her chest again. Beautiful heart rate still. Nope, still not going. Okay, Saffira, I'm sorry. Mummy and Daddy probably wanted to do this first, but I'm going to give you your first kiss. And she leant down and opened her mouth and just blew into her, down her windpipe. And bang, her eyes just blasted open. And she looked around, she looked at me, and then sort of came to for a second, and then just did that first cute little cry, and my heart just exploded. And then I just picked her up off the floor, and then she was ours. And then I just held her there, and both the midwife and the doula began immediately starting to clean everything up around us. Wow. And I asked Carla, I said, are you ready? And she's like, no, I'd like a moment, which was really beautiful and really special. And that was something that she was empowered with through the training. It's like, if you're not ready to receive the baby, then you just let us know until you are, because you want that first moment to be conscious, connected, and on your terms. And she was in my arms, so it was fine. And Carla, I probably took about 90 seconds, to almost 2 minutes to just really come back into her body. She was coming back from such a deep place to come back into the room and to go, wow, I've done it. And I saw her sort of come back into herself, and then she looked at me, nodded, and then I walked over, like sort of knelt over and, put her on her chest, and the three of us literally almost at the same time burst into tears. It was our first little
have a little cry too. I'm crying too here down in Sydney as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really everything, you know. It's the defining moment of our existence, and you know, the sacredness of our existence, and the beauty and preciousness of life, and the magnificence of our life.
Yeah, that it is.
And to have experienced it in that way on our terms. And you know, it was a full moon. She insisted on coming in on a full moon. All the windows and doors were open. It was a very hot, balmy Sunday night, and it was candle lit, and there was just this thick, sacred, goddess-like energy in the room, but not just in the room. It was like pouring out of the doors, the windows onto our terrace, and you know, we couldn't help but feel that, you know, her arrival was such a blessing for the whole of the East Village. You know, this energy was just seeping out into the city.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I realized that, you know, what we experienced was the most important thing that we as humans need to experience, to understand how we come into the world, the force that's behind that, and within that. And when we do, we're immediately reminded of the sacredness of life, and that our deepest instinct is to love, care, and nurture for each other, and to bring a life into the world reminds us of what it really means to love. And how we need to love, and you know, we were elevated in a way that, you know, will be with us forever. Yeah, it's truly extraordinary.
It is, right? It really is.
Yeah,
it just it's not just a cervix opening, dolls. It's the heart. It's the mind.
Yeah.
It's everything opening.
Yeah.
To feel the essence, like you said, of who we really are as a part of this massively intelligent, profound and beautiful orchestration, expressions of love.
And I also felt like there was a healing in the city, and like particularly in our part of town, like, because Carla was a conduit. She was like a gateway for this precious energy to be channeled into the sort of the gross physical dimension. You know, what we were experiencing in that room was so abstract and esoteric. It was so spiritual, and it was so palpable. If anybody had walked into that room, they would have immediately felt like they were in a very, very sacred space. You know, when you walk into, like, you know, old temples or caves, or where deep spiritual work has been done for thousands of years. I don't know if you've ever had the great fortune. Yeah, it was the apartment was like that, and there was an energy that was that was coming through that felt like it was pouring out into the city as well. And I mean, it's beautiful to see the birthing process as a healing for the environment, and for you know, everybody to receive the blessing of that energy when a child is born in this way, and the mother is able to truly surrender and become that gateway, that conduit for that divine energy to come through. It's serving so much more than just the baby being born. You know, it affected everything.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like there's another podcast with Jonni and Carla and Saffira. Or Saffira Devi. I feel like there's going to be a part 2, because, you know, there's so much to speak about in terms of how then those early weeks of parenting, which again is so incredibly important and imprinting, and how you manage like a dynamic life and careers and relationships and intimacy and post-birth, and what lessons we gain from birth and how they translate across into a wonderful life, a beautiful life as well. I think there's so much more we can talk about because, how we birth does heal the earth. And so healing the birth experience for men and women definitely changes. And we might have to do a continuation throughout life.
We'd love to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love to.
Because I think that second part, so I mean, I thought pregnancy and understanding myself and being the gateway to open, and then the actual birth, I thought all the work was like done. But it was like, oh no, that was just the beginning. Because
that was just the initiation.
Exactly right. Because it's been the second part of after that I really understood, again, another depth of surrender and letting go, which is, as you would know, all of what you need to embody so fully while you're bringing up the child, and especially in the first month and 2 months. It's like you've changed. I've become not a different woman. I'm the same woman, but an enhanced woman. And it's affected the way I see everything, the way I relate to everything. And then also as a woman, if you've, known work and had a career and everything right before your birth, after that, all of that gets put on hold and you're really left with, who am I without my work? Mm-hmm. Who am I? What am I? What am I doing? What's most important? And I feel like that was huge. Every day has been work for me, as in on myself, and a work of not being frustrated, like watching Jonni go off to work and be like, oh, but I'm not going off to work. What's all of that is like another, like you said, another podcast, and another thing that I think women don't get to speak about enough is our relationship to ourselves and the world after you've had your child.
Absolutely. That's why we set up, and I think you've got one in New York, even though I hear you coming back to Australia, which I'm very happy about. We set up beautiful Soul Mama circles because there is such a dramatic change going on inside us, and how we relate to the world has to be reconfigured in a way, reassessed, reconfigured, realigned. And we want to not just talk about sleep and poo. We want to talk about our identity and our sexuality and our sense of worthiness and our notion of self-care and our daily practices. And tie it back to, I think every family should read The Golden Sequence because I think there's such a beautiful resonance with the parenting life of surrendering and accepting, remembering to just feel and connect with love and then respond. How may I be of service in this moment? And you describe, gratitude so well, and you describe generosity and grace and devotion that we have to our children. So I think it's a really practical application into the life of parenthood. I think it's perfect.
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't fully reflected on it in that light, but now that you say it like that, it really is a manual for preparing yourself for birthing as parents as well, and then for family life. It really does. It applies to everything, but hearing it in that way, it's like it really does translate beautifully when we're talking about it in this context.
Yeah, we just because like birth, it's the first year is a very intense year with a huge amount of challenges and pressures, and I don't know anyone that's truly raising their child in a village, and we have to seek that out and create that for ourselves. But a lot of the onus falls upon 1 to 2 people to raise a little one, and so there's a lot of challenge in that, and you have to have principles and a philosophy and daily practices and an approach to support you through that, whether you've got it easy in a tribe or not. There's still there's so much growth still going on in that year.
Yeah Well, does it ever end?
No, it doesn't. My son no, it doesn't. It's just loving and letting go. And it's just such a precious gift that being a parent for me has just been the greatest gift, of my whole life,
Yeah.
So on that note, I think we will have to pause before we all just keep crying. And we'll let you go back to little Saffira up in the hills there and have a beautiful day. And thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience and your wisdom. I know it's going to be, so helpful to so many people because you've just described in such beautiful detail the process in the body, the mind, the spirit, the heart. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
thanks for caring and all the work that you're doing, because it is, as far as I'm concerned now, the most important work in the world. We really need to master the art of bringing humans into the world. And, the work that you're doing is just, it's all that. And it's so, so important.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Well, yay to She Births.
Yeah.
I'm Nadine Richardson, and you've been listening to the She Births Show podcast, proudly brought to you by Water Wipes, the world's purest baby wipes, made of 99.9% water and a drop of fruit extract. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our future conversations and leave us a review, and we'd love to know what you would like to hear more of. You can find me and my team of certified educators at shebirths.com and become a part of our community on Instagram and Facebook. In the App Store, you can download our She Births app filled with lots of freebies and the full online She Births program. And remember, when it comes to having a better birth and easier transition into parenthood, education is empowerment.